So I'm just gonna start like really, really basic and then get more specific. So songs like historically, you know, kind of were always meant to be sung. You know, they've existed from Gregorian chants like all the way up through folk songs in the Middle Ages, and even, you know, Native Americans use songs as ways of telling stories, and other traditions did as well. It was kind of more of a like oral way of preserving a story from generation. So the emphasis was often less on like the first person that wrote it and more about the actual story in the song. And so the writer could be 3 or 4 generations later, the writer could be dead and the song is still around. And that's probably how, you know, most of the nursery rhymes we know. Like, do we know who wrote Ring Around the Rosie? No. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, the word song has the same root as the verb to sing, and it means that which is sung. And for me, I would define it as a musical moment in time that has time constraints, usually varying between 2 and 7 minutes. But that, you know, Bob Dylan has songs that are like over 10 minutes, and there are punk songs that are 30 seconds long. So yeah, and you know, now like from the time of the folk song, now it's grown and it's become, there's art songs and pop songs, and there's religious songs, Christmas carols, yeah. So, okay, my opinion, I've been writing songs since I'm like 13 years old, so it's a while. There's no right way to write a song. It varies. Like I don't write a song now the way I did when I was 15. And sometimes I go back and listen to older recordings and I wish I had that innocence again in terms of simplicity, and you know, I think with more experience you tend to overthink things. So it's always really exciting for me to be around a new writer. I have a friend, Keith, that just started writing songs like 2 years ago, and he's fantastic. And he just has a kind of freedom that I feel like I don't have anymore because I think about everything too much. But so I looked up, there's, you know, the whole mythos around songwriting, and I looked up a lot of quotes. I've read a lot of rock bios and articles, but it's always really interesting to hear, you know, how the greats describe it, because songwriting can be really egotistical in this climate. But it's interesting to hear how like the real masters view themselves. So, you know, a lot of writers will talk about writing a song very quickly, and I can agree that it's often the best songs, the songs that you end up playing for years, are ones that come in 20 minutes. And then you spend a lot of time refining them. So Bob Dylan, my best songs are written very quickly. It's about as much time as it takes to write it down. Is about as long as it takes to write it. You know, he references Cezanne, Woody Guthrie, Hank Williams agrees. So does Donovan.
I read on his thing, I consider myself a poet for, like, do you think you're like good at poetry, or is poetry like a strong suit of yours?
This is a debate. Okay, I think poetry and songwriting are really different. Personally, I was an English major and I was horrible at poetry. And a poem has to exist on its own, and often with songwriting it's more phonetics and it's more like what sounds good, and sometimes there's internal rhymes like within a song, which sometimes they'll have like 2 rhymes like per line, and it's the kind of often the mid rhyme that no one's expecting that really makes the song. So in my opinion, but yeah, I mean, Bob Dylan or Patti Smith or probably Neil Young, maybe Bruce Springsteen would be, they're poets in their own right. I think that their stuff would stand out. But I know like Jarvis Cocker from Pulp, like he prints all his lyrics in the booklets, and he has like a disclaimer that says, do not read the lyrics along with the record. Because it kind of when you like are reading the lyric sheet, it kind of ruins it in a way. I always kind of vowed if I had records out, I'd never print the lyrics, because sometimes you hear something and you think it's a certain word and it makes the song better for you. You know, like "Excuse me while I kiss this guy." You know. I mean, I had that happen to me with like lots of cheesy grunge bands from the 90s. Like I thought they were saying these really profound things, and then I found out I was wrong, and I was really disappointed. And I found that out from reading the lyric sheets. So not every songwriter is a poet, and I don't consider myself one at all.
Okay.
But that doesn't, it's not discouraging other people to strive for lyrical greatness.
Is it usually the case where the words come first for you, or the music, and then you're like putting words to that?
For me, it's usually music is first, but it's worked both ways. Sometimes I'll like overhear something, or I'll have a line, and then I'll just walk around singing it, and then it'll just control the whole song. Yeah.
So in like with Bob Dylan's case, or any of these greats, like do you think they had both the words and the song at the same moment, or was it like one preceded the other?
I don't know. I mean, I would think Bob Dylan would probably have words first, or an idea of what he wanted to talk about. He's a very special case because he's probably one of the best songwriters there ever was. He's like a Picasso. And I don't like his voice personally, but you can't deny like that he's brilliant. I have a feeling, I mean, I don't know, and this is like completely not based on anything, but I would guess that he kind of, like a song like Hurricane is about a specific person, a specific event, and I bet he did a lot of like reading research first. Or like his rhymes are so good that he would have had to, like Subterranean, Lovesick, yeah. Whereas like the Beatles, I think that probably lyrics and melody would go more hand in hand. But that's just my own guess. Does anyone have any opinions about that?
I know the Beatles, it was, but like you're saying, like hand in hand, like they would have like some semblance of a melody, and it was usually John that did a lot of the lyrics. Paul did.
Well, each of them would bring in their own
songs later, but like I think at the beginning they had more.
Yeah.
Like this is a poppy beat, and then let's write something over it.
Where even like Hey Jude, like what is the and all you need is on your shoulder. What is that line? Shoulder. No, the love you need is on your shoulder. That's it. But that was like completely. It was a mistake. It was just they had to. Often you just fill in. You're like, this needs to be this amount of syllables and rhyme with this vowel sound. You just put words in there, and sometimes they just stay. And that happens to me all the time. I also, I like make up words when I'm like, we'll talk about like improvising and actually, when you actually come up with the melody, like I mumble, like I'll send it to someone like that. Probably not like a client, but But then you kind of know what vowel sounds sound good on those parts, and then you kind of end up, it dictates, or sometimes they'll be like, you'll have 3 words and it'll dictate the rest of the song.